All right, let's jump to love-hate pass catches. Take a look, Matthew, at your ranks.
Yes.
11 through 20, headlined by Jaylen Waddle, coming off a great game against the Bills and has been resurgent ever since Tirico went down.
Yeah, he's averaging 16 fantasy points per game since Tyreek Hill went down. At least 80 receiving yards in every game since then, but one. And then you get to my Commanders, and my Commanders are just so brutal on defense. They're beat up. Dan Quinn's going to take over the play calling. I don't know that it's going to really matter. The Commanders are going to have at least 20 fantasy points to an opposing wide receiver in 4 straight games. So if you're telling me somebody on the Dolphins is getting 20 fantasy points from the wide receiver position, I think it stands to reason Jaylen Waddle will be that guy. He's my wide receiver 11 for the week, as we just saw.
The Commanders' pass defense, it's a comedy sketch at the moment. I thought the defining moment was, I can't remember who the Seahawk was who caught the touchdown. I think it might have been Elijah Arroyo. And at the same time, they cut the JSN streaming down the other side, like 5 yards open. Why aren't I getting the ball 5 yards open? Oh, no, the other guy's 5 yards open.
He's like, all right.
How do you have 2 guys streaking down each sideline wide open?
It was unbelievable. And I was so annoyed that they didn't throw it to JSN because I had the anytime touchdown as one of my part of my parlay.
Yeah, unbelible.
But,
All right,
but Darnold was probably like, I throw a lot to him. Let me give this guy.
Sam Darnold was just like,
yeah.
All right, low hard bricks, start 2 this week. Rome Dunze, Jaylen Waddle, Ladd McConkey, Nico Collins.
I think it's still, I don't think he can screw it up. I like all 4, but I'm going to go with, we just talked about Waddle, and I'm going to say Nico Collins.
Nico.
Yeah. For me,
Nico had over 100 last game.
Yeah, I mean,
he got his 100 yards.
You know, as good as Ladd McConkey is, you've got Gadsden, and there's just a lot of mouths to feed. And you can see a scenario. Again, you have to nitpick here. I like all 4 of those guys, but if you ask me to pick 2, I pick the 2.
The other thing, too, is like Davis Mills, he's not good, but he's bad in like a Nick Mullins type of bad, where you can still accumulate passing yards as opposed to a Dylan Gabriel type of bad where there's just like nothing happens. All right, let's, speaking of Dylan Gabriel, let's talk about his team who faces Zay Flowers. And the Browns, as good as their defense is, they have struggled a bit against wide receivers.
Yeah, they're the second best passing defense. However, they're middle of the pack when it comes to allowing points to receivers in fantasy. And with Zay Flowers, man, you know what you're going to get. In 6 of 9 games, his receiving yardage is in the 60s or the 70s. So when you have Zay Flowers in your lineup, that's what you're going to get. In week 2 versus them, he caught 7 of 11 targets for 79 yards. And Cleveland is one of 12 teams to have allowed double-digit touchdowns to receivers. So he don't get a lot of touchdowns, Zay Flowers. He only got 1 this season, but he has a better chance to do it this weekend. I think your ranking of him this week, Matthew, at 18 is a nice spot for him.
You're welcome.
Yeah, well done, Matthew. That's a good job. It's a good job by you, Matthew.
Thank you very much.
Great rankings. Matthew, there's been a lot of chat about A.J. Brown, a lot of angst. Just a comical ongoing little saga there.
It feels like, by the way, it's been going on for like 2 years. It's exhausting. And the other thing about it is not only is it exhausting, but like it doesn't sort of matter. They keep winning. I get that the Monday Night Football game was ugly. It was brutal. In the world of fantasy, we're like, ugh. And I'm sure ESPN wasn't thrilled with it either. But at the end of the day, they won. 10-7, it wasn't pretty, but whatever. They won. The Eagles keep winning. I know it's ugly and it's blah, 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 but they keep winning, Lawrence. So it's
what was that other? It was the Raiders and the Broncos, right? That was also 10-7. For some reason,
that was the Thursday night game.
Yeah, both games was 10-7, but I just feel like the Packers and Eagles one was just like better.
Oh, yeah. I mean, those 2 great defenses.
Yeah. Like it wasn't balls being thrown in the dirt by quarterbacks, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was 2 great defenses playing really well, and the other one was 2 really bad quarterbacks playing really poorly.
That's right.
I'm with you there. But this Eagles team, to your point about them feeling like, I think they've won 22 of their past 25 games.
It's really insane. And you think
crisis.
Yeah, exactly.
But A.J. Brown has been much discussed, but it's overshadowed a bit the fact that Devontae Smith has clearly surpassed him as the number 1 wide receiver in this offense.
We talked about that the other day as well, where I said, I would have Devontae Smith ranked ahead of A.J. Brown this week. And what do you know? I do. Since week 7, he's got a 41% target share. You see it there on your screen. Only Jackson Smith-Njigba has gotten more targets since week 7. At least a larger target share, I should say. And wide receivers that have seen at least a 25% target share against the Lions so far this year are averaging over 20 fantasy points per game. So Devontae Smith is my wide receiver 13. He's ranked ahead of A.J. Brown. he's been pretty consistent. The stat we gave out yesterday is that there have been 8 games where they played together this year, and Devontae Smith has outscored A.J. Brown in 6 of them. 6 of 8.
Yep. No, Devontae's the guy you want in that backfield.
The Slim Reaper.
It's been bad, guys, for DK Metcalf. It's not been the season that everyone wanted. There was an okay start, and he housed that long touchdown catch and run against the Vikings. Ever since then, it's been rough. But if there is anything that can cure DK Metcalf, it is the Bengals' defense. I understand they're bad on the ground, but also bad in the air. They're bad in every way that you want them to be bad. And he was only 3 for 50 against the Bengals in the first matchup, and Rodgers threw touchdowns to every tight end on the roster. Arthur Smith reached Nirvana on live television. But I think that DK Metcalf, if there's ever a game where he can get fixed, it is this one against the Bengals.
Yeah, and I think it'll come, it probably won't be on high volume. That's just not how he does it. 4 or 5 catches, 110, 125 yards. And we know the Bengals are susceptible to that. Just ask Chase Loveland.
Colston, you mean?
What'd I say?
Chase.
Colston Loveland.
Yeah, Chase is a member of the Bengals. I can see what's going on in your brain there.
I'm thinking Jamar Chase.
Chase Brown.
Colston Loveland, rookie out of Michigan, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I do chase love. And chasing Loveland, it would be fun. I could see that.
Yep.
Loveland would be a fun amusement park.
Oh no, it sounds
maybe not fit for Peacock.
Yeah.
Anyway, something that is fit for Peacock.
You're saying Peacock isn't about love? We have Love Island.
Oh, we do have Love Island.
Yeah, there we
it's
go.
spoken for already.
Yeah,
Kind of a Loveland to compete with Love Island. A guy who's been on a Love Island.
Do you ever think that they might? Because it's so successful, Love Island. So successful.
Huge hit.
And they've tried a different spin-offs. Do you think they would ever do Peacock Island?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
That would be strange.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Like,
to be honest, Love Island kind of overshadows Fantasy Football Happy Hour. I'm not happy about it.
Well, you want to talk about where our budget goes? Love
Island.
It's going to Love Island.
Love Island's a
But I'm just
moneymaker.
saying Peacock Island. And you could shorten that as well. Like if that's too much of a mouthful.
Cock Island?
Yeah, Cock Island. Sure, there you go.
I
That'd
won't
be a
be
show.
there.
Yeah. Just something to think about. Just a little suggestion for the suggestion box there
catch me
for the
there.
Peacock executives.
Okay,
Just something to think about. Tell me you wouldn't watch that. Of course you would.
I wouldn't watch it. I genuinely wouldn't watch it. I have no interest whatsoever in Peacock Island, abbreviated or otherwise. A guy who's been on tight end 1 island recently, Matthew, is Dalton Schultz against the Tennessee Titans. Dalton Schultz is he's kind of the version of Hunter Henry that we saw earlier in the season has become Dalton Schultz of late.
It's unbelievable. Since week 4, he's got one game. Literally one game with below a 19% target share. Since week 7, he's the 6th best tight end in fantasy football. He's had at least 13 points in 3 of the last 4. The ultimate, he can't keep getting away with this kind of player, but he is. And you see it right there on your screen. He's a top 10 play for me this week at Tennessee.
Yep, very favorable matchup against the Titans team that can't really do anything well at the moment or this year. All right, let's get to others receiving votes. Talked about a lot of plays in the Bengals-Steelers matchup, Matthew. What's one more? T. Higgins.
What is one more? 3 of the 4 games that he's played with Joe Flacco, comeback player of the year, Joe Flacco, of course. Yep. He's gotten at least 8 targets. He's gotten 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games. And oh, by the way, for all the bad Bengals stats, and I have a lot of them, here's one on Pittsburgh. They allow the most yards per game to perimeter wide receivers. T. Higgins plays on the perimeter.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Ipso facto.
How about them apples? Ipso facto, therefore. How about Khalil Shakir?
There we go.
Khalil Shakir against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, by the way. Kincaid likely out.
Yeah.
In games in which Shakir gets at least 20% target share, he averages over 14 fantasy points per game. The human Dortch, Greg Dortch, getting more of a lift here. No Marvin Harrison for the Cardinals. We like Michael Wilson as well, but Niners give the 3rd most yards per game to the slot, where the human Dortch runs most of his routes. Kind of like Kyle Pitts of your Atlanta Falcons here, Lawrence. Since week 7, 25% target share. Panthers allow the 5th most yards per game to opposing tight ends. And finally, Cade Otton, who we've talked about on this show quite a bit. Since week 5, he's the 10th best tight end in fantasy football. He's had double-digit fantasy points in every game during that stretch except for 1. And last week, a 28% target share. He's averaging over 7 targets per game. Yeah. Especially, again, no Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin. It really seems like it's Tez Johnson, it's Emeka Egbuka, and Cade Otton are kind of the 3 main targets for a fairly pass-heavy offense in Tampa Bay. Sterling Shepard's just not doing anything these days.
Yeah. It's such a question from here comes Scatterboo. That's why I do split screen. Okay, this isn't going to be a question. Love Island on one half, FFHH on the other. Unfortunately, Fantasy Life doesn't have a discount code for Love Island. Maybe
this is true. We don't. Although I will say this: if you subscribe to rotopass.com and you'll get access to Fantasy Life, you get access to a bunch of other great premium sites, and you get a 6-month subscription to Peacock. That lasts until the end of this year. But yeah, we're running a promo now where, if you want, you get a free 6 months of Peacock Premium.
Okay, there you go.
So there you go.
Scatterboo.
Yeah.
Little
rotopass.com.
this afternoon.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Rotoworld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.